What's up, everybody? It's Ben, and I'm going to be taking you through a 2025 year in review for Elestrals. So, what happened this year? Well, a lot happened this year. First off, we had 3 new sets introduced to the game. We had a whole nother year of Shattered Stars introduced. We've switched to USA manufacturing now. We had more organized play. We had the introduction of Elestrals Opens, the store opens, and a lot more LGS events. We're going to talk about Elestrals Clash and even another Elestrals Kickstarter. Starting off with our new sets introduced, the first one we have was Moonrise. Moonrise was introduced on January 21st of 2025, and this was the last set in our first edition block for Elestrals. Moonrise fully implemented the lunar element to the game, so we finally had all 8 elements have full support. Then, on May 23rd, we started a new era of Elestrals in the Divine Champions block. Our first set in this was Firestorm, focusing on the fire and wind elements for our new Divines. Also included in the Divine Champions block were new titled forms of existing Elestrals that were now champions of certain Divines. And lastly, we had our second set in the Divine Champions block introduced in Divine Champions Livestream on October 3rd. This set really saw a rise in the speed of the game, an introduction of true gameplay decks to the game, and this is our current format that we are in. So let's talk a little bit more about Moonrise. So, like I said, this was the last set to be introduced in the first edition, and we finally had Lunar taking the forefront in this set, fully introducing the element to the game. Moonrise brought us some impactful Lunar cards, such as the Werepup Like a Void line in combination with Lunar Phase Full Moon. We also have Nobby and Doppelgator of the Fulgorix line as well. Set also introduced many other impactful and relevant cards such as the Blistrix line, the Antitan line, one of my favorites, Winjin and the now recently banned Tornagin. And we had a couple runes in Hurricane, which is now currently banned, and Spoiled Fruit that remains a side deck staple. Firestorm was the first set to bring new divines with Hestia and Hermes for the fire and wind pantheons respectively. Firestorm also brought many impactful cards that became immediate threats to the format. Hestia brought her champions Warmite and Majursa, along with her signature rune Hestia's Hearth, while Hermes brought his champions Spinosect and his Searcher Spynymph, his Carrion and Carryoff, as well as his signature rune, Hermes' Trickery. Some other impactful cards from this set included the Pigs, Sorlet, and Chrysor, champions of Aeolus, Galaxy, champion of Poseidon, along with Plucky, champion of Apollo, and its searchable rune, Lyre of Apollo. And last but not least, Firestorm also brought us one of the most infamous cards in Elestral's history, Like a Void, champion of Artemis. And for our current set, Divine's Champion Life Stream, we saw new divines in Dionysus and Aphrodite introduced for the Earth and Water pantheons, respectively. We also saw the introduction of new mechanics in Daze and Enrage brought with Dionysus. And we've seen the speed of the game really tick up with these divines introduced, especially Aphrodite, which has allowed more game plan decks to exist in the game. Dionysus brought along some impactful cards in Sightbrong, champion of Dionysus, Dionysus's Madness, and Cyanectar, champion of Dionysus. Some Aphrodite cards that have been really impactful are Aphoros, champion of Aphrodite, Locagon, champion of Aphrodite, and Foamy, champion of Aphrodite. We've also seen some Frost cards really take off in this meta as well, with the recently banned Iwooly, Champion of Keone, more Frost Chimera form, and Blizzard Whiteout. We've also seen some really impactful solar cards that may not be shining like they could yet, but we've seen Solar Burst now get limited, and then really strong cards in Nova Core, Champion of Apollo, and Guardian of Light. For the Lunar Pantheon, we've also seen Lunar Phase, Lunar Eclipse introduced, Rise from the Shadows, and Poison Tipped Arrow. Moving along, let's talk about Shattered Stars. So for Shattered Stars, we had a lot of updates here, and we continued / finished Shattered Stars Series 2. We had a lot of changes made. This included changes to the number of commons included in the packs, the reverse slot now including being reverse hollows, as well as moving the reverse stellars, and now making the hollow spirit a reverse hollow spirit. We've also seen additional art styles. Oh, let me Now let's talk about Shattered Stars. So this year for Shattered Stars, we continued and finished off Shattered Stars Series 2. And we also saw a lot of changes made to Shattered Stars. We saw rarity count changes. This included changing the number of common cards included in each pack compared to the rares. We now see a reverse hollow slot, which is now updated to being either a reverse hollow of one of the common cards. It also includes the hollow spirit as a reverse hollow spirit, so that spirit is not taking up the rare slot. And we also see that the reverse stellars are now included in this reverse spot as well. We saw new art styles introduced to the game. This includes the pottery arts, which I think are one of the best arts that has been included into the game so far. The felt art spirits, which are absolutely adorable. And now that we've moved to USA manufacturing, we are including textured full arts in Shattered Stars. We also saw better hit cards, and this includes the reverse stellars and the stellars, changed around a little bit so that we're actually having better hit rates of all those cards and making the product better overall. And now our cards are made in the USA. So tariffs earlier last year, really put production of the game into question. Ultimately, this led Elestrals into moving production of the TCG product to USA manufacturing. Overall, with the introduction of the USA manufacturing into the Shattered Stars and Lifestream product, we can see that the card quality has improved. There are definitely still some issues with the QA of some of the products, a lot of the edging with the products, and the cutting has been seen. But overall, we have gotten rid of the pringling that plagued early Elestrals with the hollows. And so I think we're taking a step in the right direction with the USA manufacturer. So we'll see going into Sunstrike and beyond what that looks like for the overall quality and consistency of the cards for Elestrals. Now let's move on to organized play. 2025 was a huge year for Elestrals organized play. We saw the first ever in-person Elestrals Open back in March at the Dallas Open. Then in May, we had the official start of the Elestrals 2026 season and announcement of the Elestral World Championships. In July, the first ever store regional was hosted at Cards HQ in Atlanta, Georgia. And then October brought us our second Elestrals Open in Kissimmee, Florida, as the kickoff to the live stream format. Finally, over the year, we have seen many local game store events with organized play seasons 2, 3, and 4. We also had the introduction of pre-release events with Divine Champions Livestream, set championships starting back in Firestorm, and store regionals as well. Along with these local events, we have also seen multiple community-run events pop up, from Poison Nectar Monthlies, Stellar Invitationals, Ruminous Rumbles, and even more. Now with organized play, let's move on to cover the different metas in the sets that we saw this year. Starting off the Moonrise format, we saw 6 premieres occur with 5 different champions. We had a back-to-back champion for our first 2 Moonrise premieres, both won by Justin, aka Cards and Coffee. Moonrise also saw our very first Elestrals Open in Dallas, Texas, back in March. Bo from the Pet House became the first ever in-person event champion. Overall, the Dallas event proved to be a huge success for Elestral's first ever in-person event. The early Moonrise meta could be summed up in 2 strategies to me. Good stuff combinations of Lunar and Thunder with splashes of other elements, mainly water, or gambling with Blistrix. Many of the top decks were including the original Lycovoid package along with Elechick, Zeus, and Astrabbit as the core, and then teching out the remainder with whatever package they felt best to include on the given day. A lot of these decks went for Eddy and Galaxy editions, as stat swapping and position changes were really impactful in this meta. It wasn't until Dallas that we saw some new decks emerge. Blistrix remained a threat, but ultimately we saw the Grass on the Moon, or the Lunar and Earth Good Stuff deck appear, with Swolax getting runner-up with this, as well as Bo's winning deck of the Photosynthesis or Earth and Solar Dual Nexus deck. And at the end of the Moonrise format, however, we saw a deck that proved so powerful it was good for everyone. It was only shown for the last premiere. Otherwise, it may have topped every other tournament prior. This deck was Cobalt Sanderson's Celestial Rise deck, and that was the best Reanimator style strategy we'd seen. Getting Celestial into your hand and into the underworld to cheat it back out with Rise from the Ashes, and just putting immense pressure on the opponents. While that deck may have not necessarily caused a true emergency ban list, we did get a new ban list shortly after, going into effect on June 1st, that saw the banning of Elechick and the limiting of Rise from the Ashes. Elechick had become too much of a staple in the game, with an effect that was just the result of base set card design. Having a card that was able to be in any deck for low spirit cost that could grab any divine was not going to be healthy for the game moving into Firestorm, so Elechick saw its way into Tartarus. The limitation on Rise initially felt reactionary to the success of the Celestial Rise deck, but was likely tested prior to the list, and just so happened to have its theory proven in the last event before its limiting. The card was just not healthy at 3 copies, as a Celestial deck and Blistric both liked having this card, and future gameplay could be heavily impacted if the card had stuck around at full power and new, more powerful cards get introduced into the game going forward. Let's talk about Firestorm. Firestorm saw a lighter number of premieres due to the summer season. There were 5 webcam premieres with 4 different champions. Then in July, we saw the first ever store open occur at Cards HQ in Atlanta, Georgia. I had the opportunity to attend this event, which is my first ever large TCG event, and I would say this event was run really well, both from the store side and the Elestrals staff in attendance. I'd love to see more large local game stores and card stores get involved with Elestrals to be able to host these events in 2026 and beyond. Now, during Firestorm, we saw a few new strategies appear, one of these being Fire Artifact. This included Volkari's Champion of Hephaestus, paired with artifacts such as Torch of Hestia, Necklace of Harmonia, or Poison Tunic. And then along with that, we saw other Fire Elestrals like Kinleo, Nekruff, and Warmight Champion of Hestia make its way into the deck as well. This was both its own deck as well as an engine that could be run in a lot of other artifact-centric strategies. We also saw the Pigs as another engine, so that being Sorlet and Chrysor Champion of Aeolus, be common staples in many wind-centric strategies, as well as seen in combination with a lot of good stuff pile beatdown strategies. Blistrix remained a meta threat with a new addition to the deck option in Brumelink's Champion of Kion. And then the biggest addition or mistake or overpowered card or whatever you want to call it card in the format was the Lycovoid Champion of Artemis, which this was seen prevalent throughout the meta, no matter what deck you were playing. The Lycovoid Champ engine with 1 Champ Lycovoid, 3 Moonrise, Werepup, and a Lunar Phase Full Moon was just too splashable into the decks, and this led to a lot of mirror matches and deck building constraints due to you almost always needing to include it in your own deck, or if you weren't, you needed to be able to build around this card and engine to be able to out the Lycovoid. And lastly, we have a deck that I'd like to mention in Bear Bomb. This deck was explosive and one of the more true game plan decks in the meta. Not having a way to prevent the Majursa Champion of Hestia from destroying your board or a way to out the Majursa the next turn proved to be a threat we hadn't seen until now. Ultimately, Firestorm meta proved to be less enjoyable than initially thought and led to a July 29th ban list. This ban list saw some needed changes. From this ban list, we saw Kinleo, Morolith, and Hurricane all limited to a singular copy. This helped curve the power of Elestral removal from Kinleo, the consistency of hitting your mills and Blistrix, and the ability to prevent your opponent from countering or interacting your plays with Hurricane. The biggest change, though, was the decision to send Lycovoid Champion of Artemis to Tartarus. On top of the banning of this card, we also saw a possible new way to rework the card. At first, the decision to ban the card was going to be in effect until the release of Livestream, where it would return under an errata effect, due to the card already being planned for the Artemis starter decks. This was met with community dissatisfaction for the errata, which ultimately led to our first ever double-titled card, Lycovoid Champion of Artemis, Escaped from Tartarus. The planned errata effect became the effect of the new Escape from Tartarus Champion of Lycovoid, while the original Lycovoid Champion of Artemis was left behind the gates of Tartarus for now. The end of Firestorm was also lackluster due to knowing that we were going into the Kissimmee Open on a new format in Divine Champions Livestream, which led players wanting to playtest for the new format rather than continuing to innovate and play on the Firestorm format. Now moving on to Livestream. We saw the beginning of Livestream happen with the Kissimmee Open as a kind of a kickoff to the new set. 1 week prior to the Kissimmee Open, we actually had our first ever pre-release events occur with the Livestream pre-release. Starting off Livestream with an in-person event was certainly a choice, though. There was lots of hype going into the new set, but this put a lot of focus on Livestream and took away from the end of the Firestorm format, as well as Livestream was now manufactured in the USA, but we were only having the release happen 1 week prior to the Kissimmee Open. We saw a lot of delays in shipping of competitors' products, which were getting them early. However, I know some competitors got them very close to the time they had to leave for Kissimmee, or were reliant on picking up product when they got down to the event. We also saw that this led to a lot of delays in the shipping of non competitors' products, like myself, who wasn't able to attend. So we had premiere dates that were supposed to happen the following week of Kissimmee, to be that first online premiere for those competitors. However, a lot of us weren't getting our orders in. They weren't coming for another week or so after that event was to occur. We also saw from this, we saw the changing of the schedule for the premieres, and adding another October premiere and changing up the schedule for the rest of the year to accommodate for the shipping delays, as well as giving more opportunities for players to participate in events. Looking at the premieres, though, we have had 5 different premieres for the live stream meta in 2025. All of them had different champions. The live stream meta is still ongoing, but can be summed up if we look at the winning decks, mainly Locagon or Aphrodite champs. We have also seen combinations of frost cards, such as the Morfrost, Iwoolly, Blistrix, and Crowling lines, put in a lot of work this format. At the early time of the format, we also saw a lot more Solar Foretell decks, which is still a powerful deck, while changed a little bit from some of the bans and limitations. This mainly included cards like Celestlio and Novacore Champ. And then we also have Dionysus with his Daze and Enrage strategies. These decks have kind of come and gone and haven't found a true dominant place in the meta, but do have some rogue strategies that have seen some good play. Hopefully, with more changes coming to the game through the recent ban list, this archetype could see an increase in play soon. Early on in the live stream format, and especially at the Kissimmee Open, we saw that event bring up the issue of cards like Hurricane and Helios Chariot Ride that prevent your opponent from interacting and playing the game. It also showed how Rise from the Ashes was still a feel-bad card and toxic to the gameplay, paired along with strong 2-3 cost Elestrals that take a lot to out. From this, we got an October ban list that banned Rise from the Ashes, Hurricane, and Helios Chariot Ride. Then in December, we saw a new ban list that made some more changes, both welcome and unwelcome, in limiting cards that enable some of the strongest strategies in the game currently. This being Tad Puff and Tad Flow. We also saw Morfrost Bat Form be limited. And then we saw some cards get unlimited or released from Tartarus. We saw Kinleo and Equalinx go from 1 to unlimited. We saw Race to the Top go from 1 to unlimited. And then the big bad wolf in the room, we saw Lycovoid Champion of Artemis released from the gates of Tartarus. This was one that really was met with community dismay, and questions as to why it was being released from Tartarus, as nobody really asked for the card back, and everybody saw it as a return to the unfun part of the Firestorm format. Though now we have a new ban list that was just released, which is looking to shake up the meta again here at the beginning of 2026. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the remainder of the format and going into Worlds, as it should be the ban list that is taken into the Worlds live stream format. Now we have to talk about the Catarant in the room, Elestrals Clash. Clash has been one of the more anticipated and biggest letdowns of 2025 for Elestrals. With a successful Kickstarter campaign and alpha access for testers, it was exciting to see the online client being built and help get the game ready for full launch. The decision was made that Clash would move on from alpha and closed beta testing and move into open beta or early access starting on July 29th. The hype was real around the game, but unfortunately, the choice was wrong in hindsight. With lots of excited casters awaiting to test out Elestrals in an online format, they found themselves stuck in the unskippable tutorial, with bugs preventing progression due to UI issues or making a misclick that then locked up the game state. Once you could get into the main game, there were still some UI issues that caused soft locks or the need to restart the game. The Elestrals team did acknowledge the issues and were determined to fix them ASAP. On the bright side of Clash, we've seen many new cards added to the game. At first, the strategy for adding cards was to add in meta-relevant cards so players could use cards being most played in the TCG. While this strategy was okay for the earlier metas of good stuff piles, players were getting tired of that and wanted to move on from that in testing and playing with new strategies. The team then shifted their focus to providing larger card pools, as well as focusing more on specific strategies and types of cards at a decreased frequency, though. This looked to be a great idea and went over well with the player base still playing and testing, but unfortunately, there were setbacks still. Each time a new patch was complete, more bugs popped up. This was to be expected somewhat, but the part that made it worse was seeing old issues resurface with each new patch. Bugs that had been fixed in 2 to 3 patches prior became issues once again, and this put a lot of stress on the development. November wound up being the last time we would see new cards added to the game, and December only saw a bug fix patch due to the large amount of recurrent and new bugs being reported. At the present time, we know very little about the future of Clash and its development. Full release is yet to be unknown. Was originally scheduled to be the end of 2025, but we know that that was pushed back, and we're hoping to see that going to be released here sometime in 2026. We still have not heard from Elestrals on when we'll get an update regarding Clash, outside of some Discord messages saying that the team is working on it, and they will give us an update at some point, but we don't know what that means yet. While we don't know exactly what it means, we know that they are working on it, and we know that Elestrals wants to do the best for their community and the game itself. So I think we can trust that they're working on it. It's just going to look a lot different than what was previously thought. And I have hope for the future of the game. I do think, from what I've seen through alpha and beta testing, that the game works when the bugs aren't there. The game works great. It looks good. It's fun to play. There's still people playing it daily. While not a very large pool of players, there's still consistent players wanting to try this out in an online format. And I think the Elestrals team is just taking a step back to reevaluate what they want the game to look like right now and how they think the best way to get it to a full launch and to make it a better launch than the open beta / early access time is. And now let's move on to another Kickstarter campaign from Elestrals. Elestrals Awakened. Elestrals Awakened is the 2.5D RPG announced with a campaign with the return of the A-Drive marathons for the Pokemon Legends ZA. Shady Penguin joined on as co-owner of Elestrals and to help lead the project of building this new Elestrals RPG. Over $1.4 million was raised for the campaign, with a planned release of December of 2027. We currently have pre-alpha gameplay And if you've been able to participate in this as a backer, I think you've seen that the game seems like it's going to be fun. The mechanics are cool. The style in that 2.5D is awesome, and seeing the Elestrals come to life in an RPG really has me excited. And now let's take a little bit of a look forward into what we can look for 2026. We have the 2026 Elestrals World Championships with badges now on sale, and we know that it'll be in the live stream format. We also have the new ban list that recently happened and are expecting this to be our ban list going to Worlds. The Worlds will be occurring in Las Vegas from March 21st to 22nd. There will be the last chance qualifier the day prior on March 20th for those still looking to be able to compete in the event. We also know about Divine Champion Sunstrike. This is going to be our first new set of 2026 and our third set in the Divine Champions block. This set is likely going to be releasing right after Worlds. I would say probably beginning of April, given that Worlds will still be occurring on the live stream format, which I think is the right idea given what we saw from the Kissimmee Open. I've also heard that potentially this is due to some of the shipping times and making sure that product is available for all players, which again I think is the right move for Elestrals. There will be some Sunstrike product available through some of the badge packages, so if you are attending and want to get the early look at Sunstrike, make sure to pick up those badge packages, as that's the only way that we've been told that we're going to be able to get an early hands-on of the Sunstrike product. We're also going to see new organized play seasons and prizings release, so excited to see what happens once we get into Season 5 and probably Season 6. We know that the organized play seasons now are going to occur directly in line with the new series, so we should be expecting that new OP Season 5 to occur once Sunstrike releases. We're also going to see a new Shattered Stars structure. December was the last time that we saw a Shattered Stars pack, and that is now changing off of a subscription-based model. So we no longer will getting monthly Shattered Stars, but we're going to see a reworking of the product. We don't have any information on it currently, but it seems like it may be more of a print to demand, maybe looking at possibly like our sets, maybe 3 times, maybe 4 times a year for a product. And a lot of this is to make a better product as well as decrease the shipping cost that casters are paying. Because when having to pay $10 to $15 each month just for shipping costs for somebody that's on a lower bundle package, that adds up a lot and could be a lot of other product that you're buying instead. And then we're going to see our road to 2027 World Championships occur. I hope that right after the 2026 championships in March, we're going to see announcements for what the road to 2027 World Championships looks like. Probably won't see a release of where it'll be, but at least what the roadmap looks like, and maybe we'll see some more store opens occur. We're going to see hopefully an expansion in the store regionals with more places participating, and maybe we'll get a few more in-person Elestrals opens as well. And let me know in the comments what you are looking forward to most with Elestrals in 2026. And for a quick plug of what my 2026 looks like with Elestrals, I am currently doing a daily pack challenge. So if some of you have seen this with other Pokemon content creators, I think about this specifically with my inspiration from Powder TCG. I am opening a booster of Elestrals every single day, and I am posting these as shorts on all of my socials. So please subscribe and follow my short series as well as my other social media accounts to follow along with this series. They are all going to be BHacks TCG, whether on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, as well as YouTube Shorts. So check out those links in the description, and I'd appreciate likes on the video as well as subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on those going forward. Thank you everybody for watching, and let's have a great 2026 with Elestrals.